Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Interviews from the Crypt. I'm your host, Adam Holtzapfel. Joining us today is Keith and Justin, the writers and director of the new Shudder exclusive, Anything for Jackson. Thanks for joining us today, guys. How's it going?
Oh, great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Awesome. And to kick off, I know you guys have both worked in the traditional Christmas fair. Prior to that, were you horror fans or was it just kind of something over the years?
No, I stumbled into Christmas movies kind of by accident. I was trying to make my first indie horror film, and I got real close, and then I got handed a movie about a monkey and a kid playing soccer instead. So I said, okay, well, it's a monkey soccer movie. It is. So after that, it led to the next one, and as much as they're both directing, they're really two completely different animals. So if you get a job directing Christmas movies, it certainly doesn't open many doors in the horror world. So I was just lucky enough to have this pretty cool day job for the last 7 years, making kids and family stuff and Christmas movies. But yeah, always been pursuing a life in independent cinema. So just finally got this one off the ground. So it's been a long time coming, but certainly didn't come from any sort of change of heart for me.
Yeah, and definitely same thing. I've been a lifelong horror fan. And this has always been the goal. It's just it's been a great way to get paid to learn. We found a lot of the downside is that we were, and not really even so much the downside, it's just not really where our passion lies. It's a product, and it's there's a huge market for it. Way more people are going to see those Christmas movies that we made than will ever watch anything for Jackson. They're great though. We got to learn how to make movies, and somebody paid us to do it. And the downside is that they kept telling us we were doing really well at those, so they just give you more. So it's not a bad problem to have either. So, but no, this has always been the goal, is to make, just movies that we want to make.
Awesome. And Keith, you'd written Anything for Jackson. How'd you come up with the story for that?
The same way everybody does. It was a big old lie. We were in a different pitch and thought they wanted that movie, and they said, "This is great. We've got something similar-ish. Do you have anything in the supernatural world?" And of course, I was like, "Of course we do. Yeah." And then on our way home, Justin and I was like, we don't have anything." So we just started throwing around ideas. Eventually, we came up with reverse exorcism, was sort of where we wanted to, and I just said, what's the thing that we both disliked about even just haunted house movies, taking out the exorcism part, was, I never understood why people don't just leave the house, and I like that movies like The Grudge and stuff added their own little twist where the person became haunted. But we wanted to do something different. We wanted to be like, well, what would make you stay in that house? And, so if it was, my grandchild that was visiting me, where, that's what I wanted to do, was like, they're not scared of this ghost, so you want to stay in the house. Even when it's haunted. That was something else that we tried to achieve with this one.
Right, and that kind of brings me to the location. How'd you guys go about scouting it? Because it's definitely an interesting house, and the room itself just kind of bears the fruit of the film.
Yeah, it was really tough. We looked at a lot of places. And we shot in my house. No, it's just my house. The budget's not huge on this movie. We knew that we had to save money where we could. So we shot in my house. Henry and Audrey's bedroom is Justin's house. Ian's basement apartment there is Justin's house as well. And then we actually rented out the movie theater that we watched movies in as kids. And we built Jackson's bedroom in there.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, and for the casting, you have Sheila McCarthy from Die Hard 2, and it took me a minute, but the mom from House Arrest, I was like, that explains so much with her character. Julian Richings, who's been in a plethora of genre films as the antagonist.
Of course.
They're kind of sympathetic. I don't want to say you root for them, but you can kind of sympathize with them. How'd you go about casting them for those roles?
Well, Sheila came up quite early on. We had the idea and the treatment, I think, and Keith was starting to write. And I watched a movie called Cardinals, and you know, again, coming from working in that Christmas movie world, I had some friends who knew Sheila, and I said, you know, think you can get us in touch with her. So I think at that point, Keith started putting it in, he's writing it specifically with her in mind. Once the script was done, we sent her a first draft. Within a couple of days, she said she liked it a lot and wanted to help us out. So she was attached early on, you know, nothing official, but she, you know, agreed that she would come and do it if we could find the right terms. So with that attached, we went, and that helped us get the movie financed. And then everyone else, after we got the green light on the movie, we reached out to everyone else. But Julian was also in Keith's mind at the beginning as well.
Yeah, it was just someone that I knew, you know, a friend of a friend, you know, who knew him. And I mean, he's an incredible actor. So I think the goal was like, all right, well, let's just see if we can, I'll write with these two in mind. And then, you know, we'll get the poor people version of those. And then luckily they just both were like, yeah, we'd love to. So it worked out great. And then Yannick Besson came on with Vortex. They'd done a bunch of movies with him. And you know, again, these people are all kind of out of our league for this, but it was so great. Yeah, nothing but good things.
Yeah, it turned out as a really awesome film. I know I had
thank you.
watched it and then showed my wife, and she was just glued beginning to end. So
fantastic.
Yeah, definitely not a Christmas movie, but the wintry setting kind of helps with this time of year. And
for sure.
Now I do want to ask about the snowblower effect.
Please.
How'd you guys pull that off? It was something I hadn't really seen before. You always see the wood chipper, but never the snowblower.
Yeah. Go ahead, Justin, please.
Yeah, so Keith comes from a visual effects background, but we did specifically set out to make this movie as practical as possible. We didn't want a bunch of digital effects. So it's, you know, there's a little bit of computer work involved there, but really not too much. We just kind of put two frames together to make this happen. But the snowblower and everything coming out of it, everything is all real. So we reached out to our practical effects master, Carly Morse, who also did all the makeup effects in this movie, and she taught us how to make blood. And then Keith and I spent, 3 days with my snowblower, just throwing stuff into it and seeing what it's going to throw out. Hot oatmeal does not get blasted out of a snowblower. Bread gets really stuck in there. Yeah, the frozen tomato juice with chunks of banana inside worked really well.
Nice. And that was definitely an effect that kind of made me cringe next to the woman flossing her teeth. Teeth stuff always get to me in a lot of the audience, I'm sure. How'd you guys pull that off? I definitely want to say there's a lot of makeup involved, and then as far as the teeth kind of falling out of her mouth when she flossed.
Yeah, that's all Carly Morse. You know, she's phenomenal. She, you know, again, we'd worked with her on a few of these kind of family movies, and she's just so talented. And you know, I was like, I really want her to be like, you know, like just really in there and just pulling them out. And she's like, yeah, and she gets just as excited, you know. And then and at one point, I think she'd done some magnets. She was going to do this magnet trick, and she was like, oh, it didn't quite work. So she just built like, I've still got a tub of them downstairs. I think there's like 200 teeth, and she had it worked out so she could just go in and plop them in, and she's like, you're good to go, you're good to go. And then yeah, Mary Ann could just rip her face apart every time, so it was great.
Yeah, it's awesome. And have you guys gotten a lot of comparisons on this film to other films? I know when I read the synopsis, I thought it was going to be kind of like Inside, and
okay,
only took a 180 for me. So
that's interesting. Inside I haven't heard before, which is surprising, because you're right, that would be a good comparison. I love that movie. Yeah, we've gotten a few, different ones here and there. Sometimes and I wish I knew the artist, but somebody had said, oh, they must know this person. So, it's exactly like I was like, I've never even heard of this person before. I'm sure they're making great movies, so good for them. But yeah, no, I'm going to go check them out now because we just made a movie we wanted to watch. So now I'm excited if there's somebody else that's doing the same thing. I hope we didn't accidentally rip them off.
Awesome. And how'd the deal with Shudder come about? I know 2020's been kind of an odd year with the pandemic. It kind of threw some festivals for a loop to where they had to cancel and whatnot or go virtual. And, it's just kind of seemed to pop up under the radar.
Yeah, we don't know a whole lot about the business dealings behind it. We know that they came on, well, at least we were told they came on right after Fantasia, our premiere at Fantasia, the virtual version. And so, yeah, we were thrilled. They, as soon as they took it on, they hit the ground running. We had originally heard it was going to be out in like Q2 of next year. But it didn't take long before they said, no, we're gonna rush this one. We want to get it out, before Christmas this year. And so yeah, their distribution has been incredible. It's getting right to the people who need to see this movie. As far as I'm concerned, it's going to real horror fans, the people who subscribe to Shudder. They've done really well with the promotion. They're telling everybody about it. It's a Shudder original, so we get that stamp of approval from them as well. So it's it's the perfect home for this movie as far as I'm concerned.
Awesome. And I know with this film you also had cast Constantina as the antagonist. What was it like working with her and having her in that role, because she definitely sold every minute of it when she is on screen?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, Constantina is amazing. She we just got her from an open casting call. She sent an audition tape, and she just really.
Well, yeah, she actually auditioned for someone else first, right? That was actually
But she just really impressed us and the other producers on the project. And so we offered her the role, and she came to one of the table reads with Julian and Sheila, and she's relatively new to acting actually, but at least acting professionally, but she's also a filmmaker and has done a number of short films and things as well. So she's just incredibly talented, very natural. It's tough to hold your own when you're on screen primarily with Sheila McCarthy or Julian Richings, but she did absolutely great. And a lot of people warned us before making this movie, you don't want to tie one of your main characters to a bed for the whole thing because it's going to get stale and boring, and coverage is limited. But I'm sure glad we had Constantina for that, because she managed to keep that character absolutely interesting and engaging through the whole film.
Yeah, she did. And what was the shooting schedule like for the film? Because it seemed really well put together, and the cast seemed to gel together and everything.
Yeah, well, we only had 15 days to shoot, and we really only had about 5 weeks to prep from when they told us we had gotten the green light. So we had to cast, and we did a couple meetings with the actors and a table read. But the rest we sort of had to work out when we got there on the day. So it was a rush, but when you have actors of this caliber, they were able to move quickly. So I got to tip my hat to the actors primarily on how well they gelled, because they put in the extra work. They were doing phone calls with each other beforehand, and
they just came so prepared too. Like as Justin says, we made Justin more than me. We made a lot of movies, but you unfortunately. You never know, right? Like, and you might have to go through a scene 20 times just because you can't get the acting right, or the lines right, or the pacing, and honestly, the one thing that surprised me that I hadn't thought about until we were almost finished shooting, I was like, I don't think that anybody's missed a line, like I don't think anybody has missed any parts or needed to go again or anything like that. It was really crazy. So I guess I just hadn't worked with anybody at the caliber of Julian or Sheila or Josh or Constantina. So that was the saving grace for sure.
Awesome, and that kind of brings up, I was gonna ask if any of the lines had ended up being ad-libbed or if it just kind of flowed freely from the script for them.
I'd say it flowed pretty freely. I don't think they went off script very much at all. Maybe when Ian got really mad, he started, ad-libbing a little bit, but for the most part, I think they stayed pretty true to the original dialogue.
Awesome, and I noticed on the soundtrack you have a band called Battle Scarred on there, a Canadian hardcore band, I believe. How'd you guys come about getting them involved with the project?
I'm so happy that we get to talk about Battle Scarred. That's amazing. This is a buddy of mine that I've known for a really long time. He's a local firefighter here in our town. Justin had said to me, he's like, hey, I want like some like really good, something hard here. And I was like, well, I got a buddy who plays in one of these bands. And so, yeah, I think we called him up, and I don't even think they'd had it finished recording yet, if I remember. Is that right, Justin?
Yeah, as far as the first one I got was an instrumental, and then they had to go in and put the lyrics in for us during the editing process.
So, yeah, so I think they're in the middle of recording their first album, or maybe their 40th album. I have no idea. But
good friend.
Yeah. No, I did need to see my friend. As you can tell, I listen to a lot of this kind of music, and but yeah, no. So it was amazing, and I mean, the nice thing too is, even though it's not my genre, like, we could just drop it into the scene, and I was like, oh man, this is perfect. So yeah, they're called Battle Scarred. They're here in town. And they're the nicest bunch of metalheads you'll ever meet.
Awesome. And to kind of wrap up with it being the holiday season, what are your guys' top 5 holiday horror films?
Ooh. Black Christmas for sure.
Black Christmas obviously is, I think that's the start of everybody's list.
Yep. Boy, Christmas themed. I don't know. I go back to some of the, Christmas Evil. I put that one in there. Silent Night, Deadly Night. What else do I watch every Christmas? I'm trying to think. I don't know. This is a stumper with the
top 5 is a lot.
The Shining usually ends up around now just because of the cold. So for me, I put The Shining in there, although it's not at Christmas. But what do I do? What do I owe? One more? Let me see.
I've got young kids. It's been a while since I've had time for horror movies.
Gremlins is my last one that I'll throw in there. They're in school on Christmas Eve. It's the only part that I've ever.
Yeah. No, my kids use up my all my movie viewing time with Elf and things like that. But
awesome. Well, I want to thank you both again for taking the time to join us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, if you have not checked it out yet, anything for Jackson is currently on Shudder. Well worth giving this a watch or 5 over the holiday season. And
wait, Adam, I need to know your 5. What are your 5?
My 5, obviously the original Black Christmas. Behind me here.
Canadian as well?
Yes. Rare Exports. Yeah.
That one's great.
Even though they don't mention Krampus, it has to be the best Krampus film.
I agree.
Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. Just
for sure.
Most of part 1, and then 5 minutes of Garbage Day.
Yeah, exactly.
Santa's Sleigh, Bill Goldberg, just...
As Santa, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. And number 5. I'm going to have to say, not really horror, but kind of sells it. Scrooged with Bill Murray.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, that's fair. Got some ghosts. You're good.
So yeah.
Awesome.